What's going on, everyone? B-Mac from Redbeard Entertainment here. Today we got something that's a little bit different. No series with Road to the Show or with our Mariners franchise or even with our Cincinnati Bengals franchise over on Madden NFL 19. But what we have for you today is a look at Conquest Destiny. Let's go to the map. So I'm in a little bit different spot here. I'm not usually here, but what we got ahead of us is a Conquest map with several of the different challenges taken care of. I want to go through each one of them one by one relatively quickly, and I will explain what this kind of spiderwebby path thing looks like as we get going. Now, Conquest Destiny has been out for MLB The Show now for about a month. I don't know the exact date that it launched, but when it did, there were a couple of different missions that they've broken up into easy, medium, and hard in how many turns that you have in order to complete them. Easy, there are no limits. Medium, it's, still pretty easy, frankly. And then hard is an area where you probably are going to have to steal fans on an area above the all-star level, either Hall of Fame or Legend, and you may end up playing one of the stronghold games on Hall of Fame or Legend as well. So they've done a good job with the casual gamer in this one. They've also given the different difficulty levels to make it challenging, even for some of the more experienced ones out there. Unless you've got a God Squad. So I want to go through each one of the missions that you have. How many turns, I don't have exactly written down, but I will let you know fairly quickly how we went and got this far, because we're probably about 6 games away from completing all of the missions. Step 1, I went and did For Love of the Game first, and that one includes the last 4 World Series winners. So when you start Conquest, you're going to be right where I'm at right here. You're going to be in a spot where you have a stronghold. It is very much like the concept of Risk, the board game, where you have an area and you are trying to take over territories on the map, where you have a chance then to attack and steal fans from another stronghold, and then you can reinforce and you divide. You see my territories there on the bottom right hand side of the screen. Right now we're at 68 territories. If you divide that number by 3, you're going to get the nearest whole number without going over. That's the number of reinforcements that you're going to get, and then you can add the number of fans that you steal from a territory in order to get your reinforcements. That's the Risk concept. You can put reinforcements pretty much anywhere on the map where you have already captured a territory, unless you have a string that's been broken up or in another team's stronghold. That's really, really key as we move forward. The last 4 World Series winners are the Cubs, the Royals, the Astros, and the Giants. And really, that's the order that I would take them out in. I would come straight down to the Cubs. I think you can play them even on turn 1. You're going to have to beat them on Hall of Fame. And then I would steal fans from Houston. Houston's going to be the really tricky one in this spot, because I tend to lose to them every couple of times, no matter the difficult, all-star or higher. I tend to lose to them for some reason. I don't know. They've got my number, I guess, because I'm a Mariners fan. I try to steal fans on Hall of Fame. That gives you 4 reinforcements that you can place somewhere on the board. Don't simulate. Play each one of the games, and when you reinforce at the edge of your territory where you plan to continue to attack. So when you beat the Cubs stronghold, reinforce at the Cubs stronghold and come over here and take out Kansas City. You want to steal fans from Houston in between, because that's going to be your next destination. However, I will give you one of my little pointers here is just go straight through Texas to get to Houston. And the reason being is you will then have a spot where you can reinforce if you aren't going to make it all the way to Houston in that turn. If you skip Texas and you don't play the stronghold game, and then the Rangers take out your string of fans, you're not going to be able to reinforce necessarily at the very end of the line. But regardless of what happens, if you take the Texas Rangers stronghold on your way to Houston, you'll be able to reinforce right there at the stronghold. It's kind of like wall climbing or mountain climbing, where there's a handhold right above you, but there's another one up there, and the other one up there might be the most efficient route to go. But what happens if you slip and fall? You're kind of screwed. So you want to make sure that you have that. That's a kind of a baby step, but when you're reaching for something and it's there, it's almost like a saved checkpoint, more or less. And then you can reinforce in that spot if something happens to go wrong. Come straight through Texas to get to Houston after you captured the Kansas City Royals. And then start stealing fans from the San Francisco Giants. You'll be able to reinforce at your original stronghold. Again, what you should do here is to come across and take out Colorado. If you can make it all the way to San Francisco after you've taken out Colorado based on the number of reinforcements that you can do here, then you don't necessarily have to go straight through the A's to get to San Francisco. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to just go ahead and take the Oakland A's out at the same time when you were working on for love of the game. Again, last 4 World Series winners take out the Cubs, the Royals. I would take out the Texas Rangers on the way to Houston, and then reinforce at your original stronghold and head west to take out the Giants. But you may consider taking out Colorado and Oakland at the same time. Now, I believe when I did For Love of the Game, this was before the next mission came out, which was called Take the 5. And the 5 is referring to the 5 teams in the state of California. If you are starting Conquest Destiny today and you do For Love of the Game first, then you'll be able to pick right up where you left off, especially if you took out Oakland on the way to San Francisco. Reinforce at Oakland. Steal fans from the Dodgers as soon as you're done taking out San Francisco. Steal fans from the Dodgers because they have the next highest number in their stronghold. You can check anytime by hitting the square button on your controller. The number in the stronghold currently is 16. But this is because I reset the map at this point. So reinforce at Oakland, come straight down to the Dodgers. Then it doesn't really matter if you take out San Diego first and then the Angels, or vice versa, the Angels and then San Diego. I generally have a little bit more trouble with the Angels than I do with San Diego. So I would prefer to play them with the higher attack number, which would get this game at probably All-Star, and then San Diego would be the last one, and based on the number of fans in that stronghold, that game would take place either at All-Star or maybe even Hall of Fame. But you could probably beat the Padres in Hall of Fame, depending on the pitching matchup. That's going to be Take the 5, and if you can combine it before the Love of the Game, you should be able to get both of them done at the same time. Unfortunately, from that point forward, you're probably going to have to restart your map. You can do that at any point by pressing the Options button on your controller and coming down to Restart, which is something that I clearly don't want to do at this point, so I'm going to hit the circle button to back out. Then the next set of missions can all be combined. And I'm going to show you how I got to this point, because I have combined all of the other missions to get to this point right here. And I only restarted the map just that one time after Take the 5. So For the Love of the Game, Take the 5 can be combined. The other ones can be combined as well. Start with the Bird Catcher. It's somewhat of an easy mission because it's the 3 teams with the bird mascots. And in order, you're going to want to take out the Cardinals and the Orioles and the Blue Jays. But it's not quite as simple as you think it is. And I also recommend that you take these steps to complete this, because it will make the ones beyond this a lot easier. It will also help you to have the additional strongholds to reinforce in case something like this happens. happens, where the Chicago White Sox happen to take out that little spot right up over there, which then will not allow me to move fans. You could look all the way down in the bottom right-hand corner. You can see I've got 3 fans in that Miami Marlins space. I can't really do a whole lot with them right now because Tampa Bay, well, they took that spot and eliminated that chain right there. And you have to have that chain in order to move fans from one area of the map. It doesn't have to be a stronghold. From one area of the map to another area of the map, there has to be a consistent chain involved, and that is a key to this whole strategy. So, from the original stronghold, I would come straight down and take out those Kansas City Royals on your way to St. Louis. You're going to want to steal fans from St. Louis, if not once, then twice, to make this St. Louis either on turn 2 or turn 3, I can't remember now. But you can go straight from Kansas City to St. Louis and take out the first one of your bird mascots. I think you could probably see where I went from there. And yes, I played every hexagon. And yes, I played the stronghold games. And I took out the Cincinnati Reds and I took out the Pittsburgh Pirates on the way to Baltimore. All the while, I was stealing fans. I think I might have stolen from Pittsburgh once because this one was going to be a little bit tricky. I probably played it on Hall of Fame, this stronghold game at the end of one of the turns, and made Baltimore quite easy to get. But then as soon as you're in that area, don't worry about Baltimore. Don't worry about stealing fans from Baltimore. The next step is to get the Yankees down to a manageable number, because I went straight from Baltimore through Philadelphia, again, stronghold, through New York, steal fans from New York at least once, if not twice, and that's still going to make this a difficult game, at least Hall of Fame, if not legend, depending on how many reinforcements and your attack number at the time. If they're relatively close, you can play the game on All-Star, but if the Yankees' number in this particular hexagon is significantly higher than yours, then you're going to wind up playing it on Hall of Fame or higher. Hopefully you can get past the Yankees on this one, and then it's a straight shot up to Toronto. Not as difficult. But that one is the bird catcher. Now, that's step 1. Step 2 is Kings of the 90s. And the reason I say that's step 2 is because you are going to be playing teams that won World Series in the 1990s. Minnesota is involved in this, but you already have the Yankees, and you already have Toronto. There are 3 additional strongholds that you're going to need to add on to this. And so you're going to want to, as soon as you beat Toronto, skip to the steal fans phase. And you want to steal fans from Minnesota. And the reason you want to steal fans from Minnesota here is because you're going to want to move fans from Toronto, provided you still have a straight line. This is where the straight line comes into play, because if you can move fans to this Cincinnati stronghold and then split your reinforcements into 2. Put as many in Cincinnati as it's going to take you to get down through Atlanta and possibly to Tampa Bay in one turn. Miami is just a short little spot over from Tampa Bay there. But take out the Tampa Bay stronghold as well. There's 2 reasons for that. Again, it's a checkpoint, it's a save point, it's also that foothold in that wall climb. But when you play, there's no place like Dome, you're going to need Tampa Bay anyway. So reinforce at the Cincinnati stronghold, which you took out on the way to Baltimore, come straight down through Atlanta, all the way to Tampa Bay and over to Miami. The tricky part here, since you stole friends from Minnesota, you're only 4 spots away. You can reinforce at your original stronghold here, and you can come straight up in 4 moves and get Minnesota. That's why you steal fans from Minnesota, to knock them down to a spot where then your number to reinforce at your stronghold will be directly affected by the number of fans left in the Twin Stronghold. I believe there was about 5 there, and I knew it was going to take me 4 moves, so I think that I put 7 or 8 fans in this stronghold in the reinforce phase, and then do the math. Just go backwards 1 step. For example, let's say I put 7 reinforcements in this spot to give me 8 in the original stronghold. Subtract 1 for every spot. 7, 6, 5, 4. And if Minnesota has 5 or 6 left in the stronghold after you stole fans, you can steal an all-star on this case, I believe, is how I got it done. If they have 5 in that and you have a 4 going into a 5, I'm pretty sure you're going to be playing that game on all-star, which should be relatively easy to beat, especially with the God Squads and Immortals that are out there currently. 3 inning games, anything can happen. I realize that. It's a stronghold game too, so it's not like it's the end of the world. If you happen to lose the stronghold game, just try again. The ones that are really, really important to win are the steal fans, because that's what gets them down to the level that you can play them at All-Star, or possibly even below. So again, split the reinforcements. I believe I put 7 or 8 in this spot. I put the rest of them right here in the Cincinnati stronghold, and I moved the fans from Toronto to Cincinnati. Thank goodness I still had that straight line available. And that allowed me to go straight down to Atlanta, through Atlanta to Tampa Bay, and over to Miami to finish Kings of the 90s. That was step 2. Step 3, it's a zoo out there. Cubs, Tigers, Tampa Bay, Miami, and Arizona. There were a lot of teams on that list that we already had done. Tampa Bay and Miami in particular. So this one was the most challenging one of the bunch, to go from the Birdcatcher and Kings of the 90s to try to get It's a Zoo out there. Detroit is going to be the most difficult one. Thankfully, Detroit isn't the Yankees, and it isn't the Dodgers, and it isn't Houston, because I personally, the Giants would potentially be up there too. Personally, those are the most difficult teams for me to beat on Legend. I still do it better than half the time, maybe even 3/4 of the time. But if I have to play the Yankees on Legend, or Houston on Legend, or the Dodgers on Legend, maybe even San Francisco from time to time, those are the ones that give me trouble. Here, you have to steal fans from the Tigers on Legend in order to get them into a spot where you can then, I think I wound up playing the Stronghold game on Hall of Fame. This was also tricky because, again, I had to split the reinforcements. I think I only had 1 extra move to do this, and I did the math, and I had a spot. I had 2 spots that I could reinforce. I needed to get the Cubs and the Tigers and the Diamondbacks to finish It's a Zoo out there, because I just come for beating Miami, and I'd already got the Tampa Bay Rays on the way to Miami. So 2 spots. Since I had the Kansas City stronghold taken care of while I did the Birdcatcher, I could reinforce here and head southwest to take out Arizona. The key there was how many fans was I going to need. The other key was how many fans is it going to take me to get through Chicago and up to Detroit. And that's why it was very important to steal fans on Legend from the Tigers in this particular spot. This was the spot that I reinforced right here, and I wound up coming up through Chicago. I think I played that game on All-Star because I had enough reinforcements, I had enough territories on the board at this point that I could play this game on All-Star. By the time I got up to Detroit, I'm pretty sure I ended up having to play this game on Hall of Fame. And if I had to play it again, I believe I would have had to play it on Legend. Actually, I take that back, because there were some server issues on Monday afternoon. I got into a Conquest game, got desynced from the server. It counted as a loss, although it didn't go down as a loss in my game history. And I had 1 shot and 1 shot only to beat the Tigers. Otherwise, I was going to have to restart my map. Thankfully, it worked out. From that point, again, it's really key to do the math. You put a number in before you actually set a number in. Go to the spot where you need to go, and realize that the very end of the line is going to be the most difficult part of that string. Put enough reinforcements in a spot to where you're fairly confident you can win all but, say, 1 game. Give yourself a little bit of a cushion. Say 1 game you lose somewhere along the way. Give yourself an extra piece of reinforcement. In this case, going and reinforcing in this spot, going north to Chicago, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. there are 8 moves here. I might have put 9 or 10. In fact, I think I had 10 in this spot and 10 in that spot. Now that I think about it, this was just yesterday that I did this. And then I also did the math on the other end. I know there were 8 fans left in the Diamondback stronghold, and if I had 10 in this spot, I went 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I couldn't have done that. So I definitely had more than 10 in that Kansas City stronghold when we went down. That's how you do the math, and then you realize, okay, well, I need more here, and can I get by with less there? But this one was definitely the most tricky for me because of the split, because of having to steal fans beforehand against the Tigers on Legend. It took a little bit of thinking and looking at the map and saying, I think I can do this. I have one shot to do it. If I can't pull it off, I'm going to have to restart, so let's get after it. That one was definitely the trickiest one on there. But once we got It's a Zoo out there, the only one that's left is No Place Like Dome. And I'm going to read you the list of the teams, and you can kind of check them off as we go. Arizona, check. We just got them on It's a Zoo out there. Toronto, we got them on the Birdcatcher. Milwaukee is new, so we'll have to figure out how to get Milwaukee. Miami, check. Houston, check. Actually, at this point, Houston, I had to restart the map. So Houston, I did need to go get. Milwaukee and Houston, I needed to go get. And Seattle, I needed to go get. Tampa Bay is the last one, already taken care of. So when you do the Birdcatcher, Kings of the 90s, It's a Zoo out there before you get to No Place Like Dome. If you can have the map in one spot, and again, It's a Zoo out there is going to be the tricky one for you. You're only going to need to beat Milwaukee and Houston and Seattle in order to do that. I believe, too, that you can combine For Love of the Game and take the 5 in this spot. You wouldn't have to play Houston. You would just need Seattle, potentially have to only reinforce from San Francisco in this case. But, again, I reset the map after For Love of the Game and take the 5. So those last 4 missions can definitely combine because that's what we're looking at here. Minnesota is a great place to reinforce naturally. You could also reinforce from Detroit to get to Milwaukee. I did it from Minnesota. I did the math. I put a number of reinforcements in this spot. I did have to reinforce from St. Louis to get down to Houston. It was a little bit of trouble because I know I lost at least one of the games to Houston. I don't think it was the Steel Fans game. It might have just been, one of these regular games in this particular spot. But once you get Milwaukee taken care of and Houston taken care of, it's just a matter of reinforcing in the right spot. I believe it was right here, just outside of the Minnesota stronghold, reinforced. If you can move fans at that point, do so. I don't have any fans down in the Arizona stronghold right here. So at some point I moved, in fact, I think I moved those Arizona fans to the St. Louis stronghold to help me take out the Houston Astros in that case. I stole fans from Seattle. Last night was one of the last things that I did, and then reinforced in that spot right up in that area. My screen is cutting me off a little bit. And then I just bumped it up a spot, and as you can see, if you head straight west from here, you'll wind up taking out the Seattle Mariners. Colorado gave me a little bit of a problem in that when I started moving directly west, the Mariners expanded at least 1, if not 2 spots, and Colorado took 1 spot, and I believe I ended up playing Colorado last night. Here's the thing about Conquest Destiny. We're going to go into the programs real quick and show you the different missions here. So all of those have already been taken care of. If you do the missions on hard, meaning if you conquer all of the strongholds before the number of turns specified, then you have also conquered it on easy and medium. So unless you have trouble beating teams on Hall of Fame or Legend, just go for the hard one and don't worry about medium and easy because they'll take care of themselves. Here's the thing. It's a little tricky sometimes, especially when you need, say, a starting pitcher to pop up in Conquest Destiny. I've had Whitey Ford for a significant length of time now. I played most of the day on Monday in Conquest Destiny to get as far as I could. I have 2 starts with Whitey Ford. I struck out 8 and tried to get him as many strikeouts as I could the first time and pitched all 3 innings with Whitey because I had a big lead and there was no necessity to take him out. The only other time I drew Whitey Ford, I needed one. I didn't need any strikeouts because I got 8 the first time around. I needed a win. I needed 1 run in the first or second inning, take him out, and couldn't do it. It was tied. Might have been a Steel Fans game on Hall of Fame. Might have been on All-Star. Might have been on Veteran or Rookie for crying out loud. And I didn't do it, and I still haven't got a chance to get the win for Whitey Ford. Once we do that, once we get the win, we will be able to unlock the breakout legend Al Kaline, who doesn't have a ton of power. He's got some contact. His vision is excellent. Plate discipline's good. His clutch is very high. And a very, very strong defensive right fielder who can play all 3 outfield positions. Arm strength very high. Accuracy, reaction. Speed is not something that I would necessarily like to put in center field. He's a right fielder. These missions are tricky only because they can only be done in Conquest. And as you can see by our map, we're getting pretty close to finishing the last in the stage. The No Place Like Dome is gonna be done probably today if I decide to put my energy into doing Conquest Destiny for a second straight day. And therefore, I'm gonna have the rest of the map to do. I'm still gonna have to do an entire mission with Al Kaline, and eventually we're gonna get the postseason Eddie Murray, and we're gonna have to do that too. So the plan from here is to wipe out Seattle, and then I will probably simulate all of the rest of the games except for the strongholds, and we still have about half of the map. By looking at the teams, I think we still have at least 14, if not 15, unconquered strongholds. But we'll have that many games in 3-inning formats to do. Overall, is Conquest Destiny worth it? A couple of different schools of thought here. Do you come away with any cards that are going to help your God Squad, your Diamond Dynasty team? Sergio Romo might be that card. He's got a slow breaking slider, huge break to that slider, and it's not something that you would see out of Nate Jones or Noah Syndergaard, or somebody who's got a hard slider that breaks. It's kind of like Zach Britton's in that it hangs up there a little bit and then it breaks all the way across the plate. Except it's even a little bit slower than Britton's, and that, in my opinion, is what makes Britton a little bit difficult to hit, is because the slider it moves a lot, but it's also a speed difference. It's much slower than what you expected. Romo's is just as nasty, and he's got a good changeup to go with it. So Sergio Romo is a good card. You could potentially add him as a bullpen piece on your God Squad DD team. Whitey Ford, I'm not sure that he's going to be all that good in a DD rotation if you are an upper level player. But if you are a 400, 500, 600 player, Whitey Ford is a decent card, and he is probably going to be okay for you. We'll go ahead and pull up his stats again real quick. The attributes on the Whitey Ford. He's got a good pitch mix. Again, he's got pretty good difference between his fastball and his change. Slow breaking ball with pretty good break to it. The clutch I really like at 124. Stamina's over 100 as well. The per-9s are okay. He's going to shrink some PCIs. He's not going to do a whole lot of damage to some of these all-immortal lineups that you're going to face. And the fact that he just doesn't really throw very hard, you're really going to have to be crafty with Whitey Ford. You're going to have to rely on the curveball and the changeup, and maybe even the sinker, and not throw the primary fastball all that often in order to be successful with Whitey Ford in an online format. It's not a card that excites me all that much. He is a postseason player. It's a postseason card. And if we're ever asked to get stats with postseason players, he's going to be a card that's going to be useful toward that. But other than that, I'm not that excited about the Whitey Ford. A couple of cards that you get in addition to the Sergio Romo, again, we'll bring up his attributes. I love his per nines. His clutch is great. The slider here is Romo's primary pitch, and it's an 11-mile-an-hour difference from that four-seam fastball sinker. And the changeup is pretty decent as well, but the slider is the main reason that you get Sergio Romo, and it's a lot slower than what you might expect, and it breaks an awful lot too. He's got 99 break. The Robin Yount that you get for kind of doing a couple of the early missions here, not a big fan of this card. I used that almost solely against the CPU, and I'm hitting 342 and 38 at-bats with him. 1 double, 1 triple, 1 homer. That's kind of what you would expect. 5 RBIs. You got to steal a couple bases with him. It looks like I went 3 of 4 on stolen base attempts with the Yount. I wasn't all that excited about it. Defensively, he's okay. Makes some decent plays. Got some good animations here and there. He's not spectacular. He's got enough speed to make a little bit of a difference, but at shortstop, and there's so many better options, I think, out there. Gleyber Torres, if you have the live series collections done, Troy Tulowitzki's a great card. Cal Ripken's not that difficult to get in terms of immortals. You just got to get, well, frankly, Barry Larkin, and Larkin hits lefties with a lot of pop. So the Larkin is a really good option too. Gleyber Torres is probably the easiest, cheapest, best shortstop card out there in terms of a program player that you don't have to put a ton of work in to get. This Yount card's not that great, but he is the first in a line of rewards, and the only other one that you get along the way that I haven't said anything about is Salvador Perez. And he was all right. He was all right. Good fielder. Not a ton of pop, but solid defense, solid offensively, solid defensively, good blocking. I hit really well against the CPU with this particular card. Granted, I played a lot of the games on rookie and veteran. I did use the card on higher difficulties and playing Hall of Fame Legend and had similar success with him. The PCI isn't the biggest in the world, but at 82, he's got good vision, and therefore, even on Hall of Fame or Legend, you're still going to have a decent circle when you use zone hitting with Salvador Perez. Hit 484 and 31 at-bats, 4 doubles, couple homers, 10 RBIs. It's not going to hit you a lot of triples because he's slow as hell, but it's a pretty decent card. I wouldn't start him over, say, Johnny Bench or eventually, you know, Immortal Mike Piazza or even the breakout Mike Napoli from the Texas Rangers Team Epic. But decent card, and shouldn't take you too long to get his stats, even in Conquest when you're only getting an at-bat or 2 per game. It's the only thing that I find a little bit about this that I'm not crazy about is that these cards, the missions, you got to do them in Conquest. I wish that you could kind of get them done outside of Conquest, especially once you get the mission done and once you get the map completely done. I wish there was a way you could kind of top it off, so to speak. I don't mind using the card in the format. I would just, you know, it is what it is. It's probably a necessary evil. The K line we showed, the Eddie Murray we'll get to eventually after we finish the entire map, after we finish the Al K line mission. And the Murray card looks relatively solid. Defensively, is probably his only liability there, but he's a first baseman, and 84 fielding over there, he's going to be just fine. The speed is actually a little bit better than I expected. It's a card that'll be okay to use in Conquest and probably decent in like a BR style run if you had to take a 94 diamond in your diamond round. Wouldn't necessarily be my first choice in a diamond round in Diamond Dynasty, but you can't always, you don't always get the best 4 diamonds when you're drafting in Battle Royale either. So decent card, looking forward to it, looking forward to completing the missions, and looking forward to completing Conquest Destiny. If you guys enjoyed this video, kind of a tutorial of how we took certain routes, please let me know in the comments down below. If you're new, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We'll bring in more stuff like this if you tell me that you like it. So until next time, though, we'll catch you later. From Redbeard Entertainment, it's BMAC. Have a good day.